One of the first steps you need to take when composing an image is deciding what to put in the frame and what to eliminate from the frame. And this is determined by the field of view. As many of you know, the field of view is dependent on the focal length of your lens. So wide-angle lenses like this 14 to 24 millimeter lens have a wide field of view, which includes most of the scene, whereas a telephoto lens like this 50 to 500 has a very narrow field of view and excludes most of the scene when at the longest focal length. When you have a specific composition in mind, wouldn't it be cool if you could figure out what the field of view is for that composition beforehand so that you know which lens to bring along and you don't have to make a super heavy pack? Well, guess what? You can with PhotoPills, and I'll show you how right after this. Hey there, photographers, Brenda Petrella here, and welcome to another episode of PhotoPills Friday, where we unlock the power of the PhotoPills app without all the confusion. In today's episode, we are going to learn about the Field of View Map Tool available inside the settings of the planner. If you watched episode 2 of PhotoPills Friday, you saw a preview of the different features available in the map settings, which includes different types of maps, map tools, and map layers. The Field of View Map Tool comes in handy when you would like to determine what focal length to use to achieve a certain field of view from your shooting location, or you can use it to determine what your field of view would be if you already have a chosen focal length in mind. To demonstrate how to use the Field of View Map Tool, I'm going to load a saved plan into the planner, which is the one I showed you how to do in episode 5, where we planned a composition of the full moon behind the torch of the Statue of Liberty. If you haven't created that plan yet, and would like to download it so that you can follow along with today's video, I put a link to it in the description below. So to load a saved plan, go to My Stuff, click on Plans, find the plan that you want to load, and in this case it'll be called Full Moon Behind Liberty. Click on the plan, and from here at the bottom, click on Action, and then click on Send to Planner. This will automatically load the plan into the planner using the correct date and time for that particular plan. And if we zoom out, we can see that our red and black pins are in the appropriate locations. Now I have my map set to satellite, so if you want your screen to look similar to mine, just go into the map settings, which is that little icon on the lower right of the map, click on map type, and click on satellite. Also, while in the map settings, make sure that you don't have map layers turned on that we don't need right now. The only layer that would be helpful if you're following along with this same plan as I am is the moon map layer. So if you want to turn off the other layers so that you don't have distracting lines on the map and whatnot, then click the little eyeball icons next to each of the map layers so that the eyeball is crossed out, and that will turn off that map layer. Okay, so while we are here in the map settings, let's turn on the Field of View Map Tool by clicking on the FOV box under the Map Tools section and click Done or Back. Now you'll notice a bunch of things have been added to the planner. So let's go through what each of these icons and lines mean. Just below the top bar of the planner is a new set of 5 icons. If you click on the first one that looks like a camera, here you can search for your model of camera and select it. So for me, this is a Nikon D810. Once you click on it, you will return to the planner. And if your camera has a crop factor, that factor will be automatically taken into consideration as we figure out and calculate our focal length and field of view. The next icon looks like 2 triangles that are pointing at one another. And this is one way to select your focal length. So as I said at the beginning, the field of view is dependent upon the focal length of your lens. So you can find the field of view if you know your focal length and vice versa. So if you already know what focal length you want to use, but would like to visualize what the field of view would be on the planner, then you could input your focal length here. For crop sensor cameras, you would input the actual focal length since the calculator already takes into account the crop factor if you inputted your camera body in the last step. Now you also have the option of putting information in about a teleconverter if you plan to use one, and you can also lock the focal length on the map so it can't be altered as you move the field of view lines around on the map, and this will make more sense in a moment when we start playing around with those lines. I'm going to leave it unselected for now, so click Done. The next icon looks like a small square attached to a triangle, And this represents the focus distance, or the distance between your shooting location and the point you are planning to focus on. So if you click the icon, you can either set a custom distance or tell PhotoPills that your focus distance will be wherever the black pin is. Now, for some compositions, especially those where there is a nearby foreground element and depth of field is therefore important, then you will likely want to set a custom focus distance so that you can input the hyperfocal distance or some other measurement that you plan to use. But for this example, we're planning to photograph the full moon behind the Statue of Liberty, and our shooting location, which is where the red pin is on the map, is 1.5 miles away. And there's nothing in the foreground that we want to include, and we actually want to focus on the statue itself. Therefore, we can tell PhotoPills that we want the focus distance to be where the black pin is, because the black pin is on the statue. So click done. The next icon is a rectangle, and you can choose the orientation of your shot from landscape to portrait mode by simply clicking on it. The orientation of the image will obviously change the field of view, so make sure that you're selecting the proper orientation for your composition. And I'm going to leave mine in landscape mode for now. The next icon looks like a circle with 4 dots, and this represents the shooting direction, or basically the direction you're planning to point your camera, and it's measured as an azimuth line. So we can either manually input the azimuth of our shooting direction if we know it, or we can tell PhotoPills to align the shooting direction with the black pin, or to always align the shooting direction with the black pin, which will lock it to the black pin. For now, I'm going to select just align with the black pin. Okay, so now let's look at the map. You may need to zoom your map in or out to be able to see what I'm seeing on my map. The Field of View Map Tool adds an overlay to the map that includes 2 gray lines and 1 dotted line that sort of come out from the red pin and form an arc or an angle from the red pin. And the angle between the 2 solid gray lines is the field of view. So you can think of it as if you were standing in your shooting location with your arms out. And if you had your arms wide, this would be a wide field of view. And if you shrunk them down, this would be a narrow field of view. And your arms would represent the solid gray lines. And you can rotate your arms around at this angle to basically rotate your field of view around from your shooting location. So this is how those gray lines are working. You can see that each of these lines has a black dot attached to it. And you can move the lines around by moving the black dots. So I'm going to move the upper line up and back and forth and up and down, and the lower line back and forth and up and down by clicking and dragging on that black dot of that line. By moving these lines around, you are making the field of view wider or narrower, and the outer lines move independently of each other as you adjust the field of view to your liking, unless you've locked the focal length in the focal length icon above. Notice that as we move the outer lines around and make the field of view wider or narrower, the focal length in the icon panel above changes accordingly. Now let's look at the dotted line. The dotted line between the 2 dark solid gray lines is the shooting direction. And when we set the azimuth of the shooting direction under the white circle icon above, we set the azimuth of this dotted center line. Now, if we want to pivot the entire field of view around, we just drag that center dot on that center line, and the other lines will follow. Notice that as we move the center dot, the azimuth of the shooting direction under that circle icon above is recalculated as we move the field of view around. So now let's adjust the field of view according to what we want our composition to look like. And I would like to include some of the skyline in the image around the Statue of Liberty. And so I'm going to zoom in on the statue now and start to adjust my field of view by moving the little black dots around. Like so. And now that I've set my desired field of view, I can look at the focal length icon above to see what focal length I should use to get this specific field of view. And right now it's showing me 172.2 millimeters. So around 170 to 175 millimeters would work for this field of view. So now I know which lens I should bring for getting this particular shot. Another thing to note on the map is this red line that is connecting the two outer gray lines. And this red line represents your focus distance. Next to the red line, you'll see the little icon, the focus distance icon, which is again that square with the triangle, same as the icon above. That little icon is next to the red line, and next to the icon is the actual focus distance for a quick reference. Since I set my focus distance as being at the black pin location, the red line is intersecting with the black pin. But if I had set it at the hyperfocal distance, then the red line would be at the hyperfocal distance. Okay, last but not least, to the right of the field of view icons are 3 stacked lines. If you tap on those, you will get a list of all the different field of view measurements and a little cartoon showing those measurements, should you need to know this level of detail. As I said at the beginning, figuring out what to include and what to exclude in an image is really important in composition. And so is figuring out depth of field, and PhotoPills has a map tool for that as well. So in next week's PhotoPills Friday, we will learn how to use the depth of field map tool to help us choose the right aperture and focus distance so that we get the depth of field we want. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.